Well, that is an initial resume from all the candidates, so we are now going to open it to the floor for questions, and I would prefer that the questions, as I said before, are directed at the panel as opposed to individuals. And the first question is...
Mr. Chairman, how long do we have each?
To answer the question, a minute. And the gentleman over there.
Mike Baldock. I come from Kent, but I couldn't make the Kent hustings, so I've come up and invaded yours. When we won in 2013 and in 2015, we were getting support from the working class estates, middle class leafy suburbia, and the rural villages. When we was out defending our seats in 2015, that wasn't happening. So what will you, or the candidate you're supporting, do to help us build that cross support from all parts of this country?
Peter.
That's a very, very good question, sir. Look, you're talking about the very people that I come from, actually. My parents were working class. My dad was a driver all his life. He started off as a lorry driver and then he was a chauffeur. My mother worked in a charity shop. I'm a typical example of that. You know, I went to grammar school. One of the reasons why I joined UKIP was because we were the only party who actually cared and wanted to bring back grammar schools. Of course, now that's been nicked by the Tories. But what I would say to you is I've always seen UKIP as being the party of the patriotic working class. Always. And I think the problem is over the past year, 2 years that you talk about, it's lost a kind of focus. But the truth of the matter is that when I gave you my initial pitch, it really ties into that. Because the majority of people in this country who are patriotic, who come out to celebrate our national events, who care about what we are as a party, care about what their children are taught, they are working class people or lower middle class people. They're the bulk of our people. What we cannot do is simply try to start, if you like, appealing to other different sections or whatever. We have got to stay absolutely on that section of people. Thank you.
I agree with a lot of what Peter has just said. I don't think in the past that UKIP, for example, has reached the working class quite enough. I think that has to be a focus. It has to be a focus. In terms of various regions, you've got to, for my mind, local regional groups need to write local manifestos so you can make things, you can bring things home to people locally. We then need, obviously, to present our national picture. But I do think, I personally would love to see us go after the Labour vote. And we will only do that if we really, really listen to people and respond to what they are saying. We cannot drift in to a where we're not listening to the point because it's too difficult to listen. People are raising issues, but they're too difficult for us, so we'll just brush those aside. No, you have to listen to what people are actually saying. And for example, the bulk of mass immigration into this country has affected the working classes. We have got to address that. We've got to start talking about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
We are strong believers in compassionate, and I use the word compassionate immigration. One that takes into account the host community and also those who are seeking to come in as well. That may seem odd from UKIP for some to hear us say we believe in compassionate immigration, but it's the right type of immigration, and that's what people will see. We believe in this country upholding its Judeo-Christian heritage. We believe strongly that that's important. We do not want what we have at the moment in our legal system, a two-tier legal system, one that almost bends over backwards for certain communities. We need a one-tier legal system, one that Britain had for centuries.
Thank you.
And we will make sure we will make it.
I think it is very important not to be seen as a faction, but I think we do also need to, for any class, But I think we do also need to remember that we've lost all our support practically. And we are actually in a position now to decide on a completely new way forward. I think that one thing that not every candidate here will do is really change the direction of the party. And I think you could be thinking about what form that should take. Now, I have said that I want us to be a wealth creation party. You know, wealth is good for the weak, whose lives are stunted by poverty, and it is also good for the strong, who can achieve greater dreams than they could otherwise. And I mentioned that I was going to make if I was leader, I would push in our manifesto for a massive cut in welfare. And I also mentioned that Peter Whittle had thought that sounded harsh. Actually, if you look at the numbers in my proposal, I'm proposing to take more of that money from the wealthy than I am from the poor. Now, this is quite controversial.
Mr. Chairman, if people are mentioned by name, they should have the right to respond.
Well, I'm just stating a fact of what
No,
you said.
you were saying it in terms of your
I don't think you need to
argument.
respond on a fact.
Yes, no.
Thank you.
You need to.
Is my minute up?
Yes, your
You should
minute.
talk about
Okay.
working class
We've got
people.
your minute up. I'll come back to you, Peter, again. Marion.
Okay. Well, from my background, I'm from the northeast of England, and I actually am from working class, but that's beside the point at the moment. But that's an additional factor of me trying to be your leader. But what we need to do again is, unfortunately, with the media, UKIP has been portrayed as being focused on one thing only, immigration, and unfortunately it's come out as racist. We have to make sure that we can get our good policies, apart from 2 or 3 exceptions, excellent policies, out to the British public. And we need to have a strategy for doing that. And I agree that we need to be looking at Labour voters, because I've always seen it, especially when I've visited back up north, that there is open-ended opportunities for us to gain the Labour votes with our common sense party that we are, and common sense policies. And we need, again, we all need to get together to see how we can get these out to the British public, rather than the one thing that they focused on prior to the referendum.
Thank you. David.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know if you're clapping me or for starting or clapping Marion for ending on. Anyway, both of us, thank you. Thank you for your question. I think we just have to be ourselves. And when Nigel was the leader, he was himself, and everyone warmed to him from the left or the right who had common sense and who loved this country and was concerned about political correctness, was concerned about immigration and wanted to leave the EU. Those are still going to be our main themes going forward, but perhaps the specific things that they address will be different. I think the worst thing we can do is to say we're the party of the working class and become a parody of ourselves and do policies like saying, oh, our main policy is going to take VAT off fish and chips, because that's what working class people do. It's not to parody who people are, because I think we need to treat everyone with as though they're intelligent. And there are millions of people who want us to do well, who would naturally support us. In 2015, we got nearly 4 million votes, and that was with 1 or 2 million not voting for us because they were worried about Miliband and Sturgeon.
Thank
I've
you.
got another couple of minutes.
No.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Game, cut short. Thank you very much.
Can I just say that I had fish and chips last night? Jane.
I know.
Don't start timing, I've not started. Right. Listen, one of the main things that attract voters is a party that can portray a policy for a strong economy. It doesn't matter who you are, you like money in your pocket. And this doesn't mean making endless rules and red tape that suits the multinationals. We should be rewarding the workers and the strivers of this country. We should be encouraging start-up businesses and small businesses. Make sure that they take on staff. We mustn't hinder them with regulations and wage restrictions and high taxes. If you're on a minimum wage, you shouldn't be paying income tax, and you shouldn't actually be paying national insurance. And we need to change the system, whereas people on low wages should pay taxes, but there should be some way that they can receive tax credits. Because if you're not living on if you're actually living on a minimum wage and you don't spend, you're not actually putting money back into the economy. We need to reform VAT, and we need to abolish inheritance tax and bring back tax rebates on anybody who is paying into
Thank you.
private health insurance.
David.
Well, I mean, it's a great question because it's the Andrew Neil question. And it'll happen on Sunday morning, on the 1st of October, and he'll say to the new leader, what on earth is the point of UKIP now? And that is exactly what the question is. Because we can have the finest policies in the world, but if nobody is listening, nothing happens.
That wasn't the question.
The first thing we need to do is to have a leader that has a degree of gravitas that people will listen to. That helps if you have a very, very strong background in the kind of thing that you're talking about. And Henry Bolton does have that. For me, I think a huge mistake was not looking forward when the Brexit referendum was won. We need to move forward on a broad agenda. I strongly think that we need to drive electoral reform as hard as we possibly can because it already has support in the country. In exactly the same way that Brexit did, we didn't make people turn against the EU. The British people have always been against the EU. And in times past, the numbers were even greater.
Thank you, David.
What does that all got to do with working class people?
It's about how to move the
No, that was
party
the
forward.
question.
Thank you.
Can't we keep to the
Just-
question?
Yes, we do need to keep to the question, and Peter, I will give you 30 seconds because you were mentioned in a previous thing.
Yeah,
30 seconds.
yes. If you're mentioned in a question, you have the right to reply. First of all, yeah, I do think there is shocking austerity in this country. If you go around to like where we have been going around, you know, the idea that somehow or other you can just cut half of welfare is like electoral oblivion. So it's ridiculous. What you have to remember is that working class people worry about things like migration. They worry economically about it. They worry culturally about it too. They don't like the way their country seems to be changing, and they have to keep quiet about
Thank you,
it.
Peter.
That is what you have to look at.
Thank you.
I joined UKIP for one reason only. And I've listened to all your policies and reorganisations, and I couldn't care a stuff about them. I want someone who'll get us out of Europe and then wind the whole party up. That's why I joined. I don't want you to be liberals or Labour or Conservative. Just get on with getting us out of Europe.
I think that is a statement, so we will go on to you, sir. But thank you very much.
That's not a question. That is a question. Why have none of you mentioned getting out of Europe except you?
We haven't
None
finished
of them.
yet.
I did.
I've had a referendum.
I did.
I talked at length
Yeah,
about
but
Europe.
so what? The referendum's
exactly.
no damn good unless we get out.
We need to ensure that it follows through.
You're doing
That's
the
what we're
best thing to
saying.
make me leave.
Can I, as an MEP, can I just answer
Yes.
that? I think as an MEP, I
Okay.
probably have a right to answer that. Can I just
Jane.
address that, please? Right. As an MEP, obviously, I am one of the people that have definitely voted like a turkey voting for Christmas, and that's fine by me. As if I lost my job tomorrow over there, yippee. In fact, I was supposed to be over there addressing the MEPs today, which is probably, I think, where Henry's gone. I chose to come here and address you. I want to leave Europe. I want to leave the EU, sorry. I want to leave now. Nigel Farage got 17.4 million people to vote to leave. Everybody's duty on this table is to ensure that that happens. That's why we're here tonight. But I don't particularly want UKIP to die, because then where is an opposition to the corrupt governments and shadow cabinets that we have? Nowhere. Thank you,
Keith Fair. Oh. Keith Fair. No, try that again. Keith Fair, Chairman of Suffolk Coastal. All these are very good words, and there's been something interesting in what everybody has to say. We are hopefully going to come to a consensus at the end of this process about what UKIP and its policy shape should be going forward. But none of that matters unless we can break the two-party hold on media and the transmission of that message to the people. People, I know from knocking on doors, don't
Yep. So the question is,
take messages on board unless they come through the media. So tell us, please, what you would do to break the two-party hold on the media message.
David, starting with you at this end.
Okay. Well, okay. No, I don't really bother with the microphone. Break the two-party hold. Well, I think I've kind of already alluded to that. I think we need to change the way that we vote. I think there is support for that in the country, and but we need to do that in a way that we've not done before. Now, we all want to get out of the European Union. That's principally why we're here. And I understand this gentleman's concerns, because I know a lot of our members are only in the party to get out of the EU. And when we've done that, and when we move on, because I completely disagree with you, I think we should be a party for the people. There is room for a third party.
How are we going to break the hold of the media?
The way that we do that is by becoming relevant. We are not relevant. Nobody is listening. When you become relevant, you become interesting. When you become interesting, the media take notice. Rubbish. When the media take notice, okay, so it's rubbish. So the media don't count. Presumably that was Peter Whittle, was it?
No,
nodding his head.
Can you please get on with it, because we're wasting time.
We have to return to a degree of relevance. That's what Henry Bolton wants. We both want to see a party that progresses onwards, even after we've left the European Union.
Thank you. Jane. And remember the question, please.
Yeah, okay. UKIP is relatively a young party, and we have done reasonably well. We have pushed the political agenda forward in the last 10 years without actually having MPs of any stature. Now, for me, to be in the media, to get on the media, you have to have your contacts, you have to have a good team behind you, and the party has to professionalise. Too long we have been paying people to do a job within this party that they haven't delivered on, and they've been on high salaries. No more. No more. We have to professionalise, we have to put a strong team together and move forward from there. As Labour makes more and more backpedalling, the same as the Conservatives, like you've just seen with the single market and the customs union, we're going to become more relevant. We have to get our ducks in line, we've got to have the answers ready, and then we will be relevant, and we will be there on the TV again.
Thank you. David.
Thank you. To most people who are voting, they you know, the electorate, they just look at the politics when it goes on towards the election, and then, you know, people have their own lives, and the millions who vote, you know, they don't take much notice of politics throughout the electoral cycle. But to them, when you come to an election, the party has a face, and that's the face of the leader. And the face has to be someone interesting, exciting, like Nigel was. And perhaps this is quite an exciting, interesting face for the media. Certainly be different anyway. You know, I do have a lot of contacts in the media, and because I'm an Assembly member, I'm also the education spokesman. People do ask me on a regular basis to go on to media channels. I was on BBC a couple of days before the last election, and you may have seen that, surrounded by, you know, the Young People's News Night. I got a grilling there, but I think I held my own for UKIP. As well as old media, we've got to look at new media as well.
Excellent, thank you.
So let's do that.
Well, sometimes you can't actually say what you're going to do until it actually happens. We have to grab every opportunity that we can. We have to obviously show the Labour liars up for what they are, and grab the opportunity as it comes along. We need a very good media-led team, to be honest with you, actually, so that we can actually be in there and grab that attention, and then we can portray ourselves and show our policies more. And of course, the Conservatives, backpedalling as they are with Brexit, we need to be there literally on the jugular with them to show that we were the ones who wanted the referendum, we were the ones who were putting country before politics, and that we are still doing so. And that's the common sense party we are. So sometimes it's not easy to say what we're going to do. It's the opportunity as it arises, but we've got to be ready to do that, again, with a good team up front. We do need to revitalise the party with some more organisation that's in process, and I think we all know where that is. But as long as we're ready, then we can do that.
Aidan. And remember, how are we going to get the media on our side?